prosecute your opponents. He ended his statement by saying that it would be fair on his part also to prosecute NDC criminals. And I asked myself, you are the Attorney General, for God's sake. Who is preventing you from prosecuting criminals wherever they are? He did not end there. If you look at the tone of the letter, for an individual of his caliber, 30 years experience in the law practice, to end a statement by saying that he knows that death is inevitable and that when you die, you never know that you've existed before. If you look at the letter very well, when he was about to start, he said that he has received calls from Boku, from a lot of other places, threatening him of death, and that he is not afraid of it. If I was the president, for which I'm not, and considering what is happening, I would not wish to be one. Because what I would do, first of all, is to sack him and institute an instant inquiry into the allegations he made. Because nobody should think that by sacking him and giving reasons that are subject to further questioning and doubts will let this matter rest. Because as a people, especially where the press play an important role in our governance and democracy, if you have a section of the press being rented by individuals to prosecute an action against individuals in this country, that will lead to gargantuan crime against the people of this country. I think that is something that nobody can wish it away. For me, the content of the release, nobody doubts the president's right to hire or fire any minister at will without giving explanation. Maybe the framers of the Constitution are very conscious of the reason why they made it so. There are groups of people who are also saying that there's a need to maybe introduce another rule that will, in terms of helping governance system and transparency, to let presidents give reasons. I still want to believe that insofar as we still have oath of secrecy in our governance system, especially for ministers and presidents, there are certain things that the public need or ought not to know, and that should be maintained. But if you go ahead and give reasons, and these reasons give rise to doubts, then of course there's a need for us to be offered better explanation than we are being offered.
What is the doubt in your mind?
For instance, the press statement that got him out stated clearly that he's been fired because of misconduct that he exhibited on the day in question, that 13th January, Friday, 2012. We are being told by state press 2 days or 3 days after that the man was in the meeting in a sober manner, apologizing and begging, especially where the man is aware that there's an impending reshuffle, and that he begged the president that he will go and sin no more, and that he should be spared of the impending reshuffle. Then a statement comes out that he's being sacked as a result of a misconduct that he exhibited at that particular meeting. How can a man come to a meeting begging and crying all over the place and still exhibit signs of misconduct?
That's begging and crying.
So we must be told.
No, you've been told it's misconduct.
We must be told of the nature of the misconduct, because one, let me tell you, we've had examples of misconduct and behavior of ministers in this country that in my mind. For instance, if you have a minister who can say that people of Kumasi must broaden their horizon by coming to Accra, for instance. It's something that you can't imagine. Even
which minister said that?
Oh, the deputy minister for Interior. He was then the deputy minister for tourism just after making such.
Okay, I don't recall that he said exactly that. I know there was something about Kukwasi, but I don't recall that he said necessarily that
the general secretary of the MPP must broaden his horizon, especially where he's moved from Kumasi to Accra, you know. If you have a situation where in the same ministry, Attorney General's department, the deputy minister for Justice and Attorney General, you have the substantive minister in court prosecuting a case and stating clearly that the man in question used fraudulent means to acquire a judgment and money that he has no capacity whatsoever to even go to court in the first place, because there was no contract whatsoever between him and the government of Ghana. Then you have his own deputy speaking to Joy SM, stating that the government has no case at all in the matter.
This was from the onset of the discussion, though. It wasn't at the point where we knew Martin Amidu had gone to court.
No, you realize that
you're talking in relation to the earlier
recent amended rate
was based on an earlier one.
Was based on an earlier one.
But that
as far back as 18th September, 18th August.
I understand that, but that notwithstanding, there was still a settlement which led to the payment, which is a matter of a court case now. Do you get me?
Yeah.
The Attorney General first said we don't have a case and reached an agreement out of which payments have been made. Subsequently, the Attorney General goes to court and says, I have new evidence.
Matilda, the realization of evidence by the Attorney General in his office was realized long before last year. Long before the Deputy Attorney General gave you that interview.
But the money is paid nonetheless.
It doesn't matter. You see, that's why then we should say that then Attorney General forgets about your amended rate and because the money has been paid. Because when the Attorney General then was seeking relief or a stay of execution, the court in its own wisdom went ahead to state that you have done some agreements with the man in question, the Woyome man, that you are going to pay the money in 3 equal installments. And that at the time that you are asking for the stay of execution, the first payment was due. So go ahead and pay the first payment. Let the person write an undertaking that when he wins the case, the rest of the payment, the installment.
Fine. So your point about Batinodo is what?
Is that his conduct, for me, he shouldn't be in office by now.
You think he should also be fired?
I am not saying he should be fired. But what it means is that in the view of the government, that conduct is not so grievous as compared to the conduct exhibited by the Attorney General at the said meeting. It means, of course, that the people of this country, for the sake of posterity, for the sake of transparency, for the sake of good governance, if the presidency had gone ahead to give us reasons, there's a need for more clarification in order to get it rest. Because you can't have it, if you talk about misconduct, anything can be misconduct.
Okay,
it is possible, let me conclude on this matter. It is possible Martin Amidu was prevailed upon to withdraw his statement that he has made. If a president asks you to withdraw a statement you've made already, and you stand your grounds, obviously it can be considered as misconduct. You understand? So,
but why would you not consider the issuance of the statement misconduct in the first place?
Why wouldn't
the issuance of that statement, which indicts the corporate body, which is the government, and misconduct in the first place?
Why will I do that? Where, for instance, in this country, with all the limited resources that we have, an individual has procured by fraudulent means such a gargantuan sum that all Ghanaians wherever we are, from Paga to Axim, from Axim to Aflao, from Aflao to... That's what we have in that. Yeah, that's what we have.
What has not been concluded?
Well, there's a case in court.
No, you may in your mind.
You understand?
And
you
have not been invited. We have not been invited. Let's not confuse Martin Amidu's dismissal and the.
No, I thought we'll be dealing with that.
We'll come to that.
I'm concluding on this.
So you conclude
that all citizens of this country, 24 million Ghanaians, can get 30,000 each from the money given to one person.
Thank you very much.
As a result of fraudulent representation.
But yeah, cool, Bibiani. Okay, cool.
The question of the issuance of the statement, it being the evidence of the misconduct, doesn't appear in this context. That itself has its own problem. It's problematic, as I said, without prior notice and all the rest. But the statement that came out said that his behavior at the meeting was not acceptable, in line with acceptable standards of. That's right.
Okay, Bedia Bibiani says the AG's gargantuan dismissal is a gargantuan testimonial for the gargantuan one-term presidency of the NDC. Okay. Evans in China says, I think President Mills sacked Martin Amidu in order to conceal the gargantuan corruption in his government. Prince Osusu Setre in Bibiani says, all that Ghanaians are seeking is justice. The so-called allegation should be further looked into to bring to book the gargantuan criminals. Mancha Bruce II in Takwali says, public office is supposed to be public trust. I thought Martin Amidu would have been given the platform to pursue the Woyome issue to the logical conclusion. This is a clear sign of the rampant corruption at the highest level of the Mills administration. Ahinkra Osei says, is it not surprising that of the three people who have copied the AG's office, the one who says there's a case is the one out of the office, while the two who say, okay, let me retake this. It says, is it not surprising that of the three people who have occupied the AG's office, the one who says there's a case is the one out of office, while the two who say otherwise, Martin Odu and Mrs. Modis Idrisu, are still at post? President Mills is part of the corruption. Okay, I've got to read a couple more text messages, and then we'll look at how the removal of Martin Amidu is likely to affect the case that he's pursuing in court on behalf of the state in the Woyomi matter. Alfred at the University of Ghana said the dismissal of Martin Amidu is a hefty blow to fighting corruption in Ghana. President Mills has lost the opportunity to show his commitment to this crusade. How can he convince Ghanaians that he is not complicit in the whole Woyomi saga? Martin Amidu is just being gagged. Ohene Badako says the president was indecisive in his action on Martin Amidu. Ilyasu in Tamale says painstaking investigations into the AG's dismissal revealed that Martin Amidu was coerced by the president and his henchmen not to amend the writ against Woyomi. Okay, so hopefully Ilyasu has some intelligence that we all don't seem to have. Suleiman Yusuf says it's obvious the AG was sacked because he indicted the government, not because he misconducted himself before the president. Sham in Yendi says, I'm disappointed in the NDC government. Firing Martin Amidu will not heal their wounds. We want to take the discussion a little further and then move on to our subsequent topics. We want to address how the removal of Martin Amidu is likely to affect the government's case, to retrieve the millions that the AG or former AG says was wrongfully paid to Alfred Woyomi. Kweku Bako, how is that going to affect the case, do you think?
Well, in the normal circumstances, it shouldn't. The AG's motion for amendment of a statement, I'm not a lawyer, I'm sure I haven't used the right technical description.
It's an amended statement.
Okay, see, amended notice of motion, application for leave to amend by substitution the amended rate of summons and amended statement.
So he's amending the rate and the statement.
A mouthful thing. Yeah. It shouldn't. candid opinion, the Attorney General was speaking the voice of government. The